We're going to start this puppy up. Clear, prop.
And welcome back to building the Affordaplane. In this part, we're going to build the elevator from beginning to end. So stay tuned. And thanks to our new patrons, you are the people who make this whole series possible. Let's get started.
Now the elevator is going to need a piece of paper for copying the plans on that is 8 feet long. So that's going to take up the whole half of your workbench. But the good news is that it's really broken up into 2 halves, and each half is a mirror image of the other. So we really only need to focus on one side at a time. So let's take a look at how to get started sketching out the elevator full size from the plans. And here's our completed elevator. We're only showing one side of it. This is 4 foot from the center line. The opposite side is identical. In fact, we're not going to even draw this over again because this can be used to make both sides. The other side is a mirror image just flipped over. And we can use this now as a pattern. Now for making this bend, we have a stub that's going to be, well, I'm going to add a couple inches to it there. So 16 inches and deducting 8 for the take-up. So I'll place my bender at the 8-inch mark, and that should come out to just about right then. So here's our 8-inch mark, and here's the arrow. So we will now bend up, and that will leave the 16 inches from the bottom of the curve to the top of the stub. And just a little more. Don't overshoot. It's very tough, near impossible to take the bend back. Now, this curve here, if we measure, I'm going to add another inch or so, 28, so I deduct 8. So we want to put our arrow at the 20-inch mark, which is 28 minus 8. And there's our 20-inch mark and the arrow. So we're going to bend this up. And remember, we're making almost a 90-degree turn here. We don't want to overshoot, which won't be easy to do, but we're going to have to go almost to the max of the bender. And we're getting there a little bit more. And here we got a pretty good fit. Now we just need to join up with the other one and make a splice at an appropriate location. And with both tubes in their proper positions, we check the overlap, pick a convenient location for the splice, and draw a line. And we'll make a cut to remove this piece and a cut here to remove this piece, and they'll be joined right there. With our splice here, all we have left is to trim off the end here and all the way down here. And then we can make a splice. Now making the splice is pretty easy. We made our cut and deburred, and then we cut a 4-inch piece of 7/8, and I cleaned up the edges real good because we need to slide these in. Now this is 4 inches long, and I put a couple marks at the halfway point because 2 inches is going in here, 2 over there, and you want to make sure it can slide in easy enough both directions. And if you do have trouble getting them in, usually it's a burr on either tube. But the idea is we're going to slide it in up to the mark. I used my tool to draw a center line because we're going to put in 2 rivets in each side. I'll start here and put in 2 rivets and cleco that'll lock this in place, and then I can slide this in place on top of it. And the 2 rivets I'm going to place 1/2 inch in. So that will be approximately here, and then 1/2 inch from the other direction, and that'll be approximately here. So I'll go ahead and punch and drill these 2 for a 1/8 inch stainless steel rivet, and go ahead and at least cleco, if not rivet, and then do the same over here, pressing this in place. With this side drilled, we can push it together, and what's nice is we can make sure that each side is nice and flat prior to drilling this, which will keep everything nice and flat. 2 more holes, and then 4 1/8 inch stainless steel rivets. As an extra bonus, I'm going to add 4 rivets to the back side. So I flipped it over. Here's my seam, and with the same measurement, I'm going to place 4 more. Now for the 8-foot long elevator spar, we need to mark a line across one edge, and then we need to rotate it 90 degrees and mark a nice straight line along the other edge. Now, our special tool jigs for doing this make this very easy. I was informed I was doing it wrong, so here is the right way to use these. We need 3 of them. The first one you clamp to the end like this, and the very same for the one at the other end. If you can picture this all the way down there. Same thing, clamp to the end. And then the one for marking is in the middle. And this is how you're supposed to use it to mark. By putting my pen in the top hole, all I have to do is move the pipe. Just shift it down, and it will magically keep the line perfectly in the center. And it's those blocks on the end that are making sure that the pipe does not shift or change. Do this for the entire pipe till you get to the end. Then, when you want to do the other side, you simply need to flip like that, and the blocks at each end will keep it perfectly aligned, and you simply do the same thing. Put the pen in there and draw the line. So we need 2 lines 90 degrees from each other for the entire length. We have our 8-foot 1-inch tube along our pattern, and we have marked the top with a line, the side with a line, and the bottom with a line. So we got 3 sides marked with a straight line. The other thing we want to do is transfer the center line mark to the tube. Here I have the center line marked. I also labeled it top up here so I don't forget which line is the top. Now our next step is that we need to insert a insert called a sleeve, but it goes inside, so it's not really a sleeve. This is 16 inches long and is 7/8 inch diameter, so it will fit inside of our 1-inch tube. It's 16 inches long, so there'll be 8 inches on either side of the center line. Here's 8 inches on this side, here's 8 inches on that side, so it will sit inside right here in the middle. So we need to slide this in the tube from the end all the way down and stop. Now, how are we going to do that accurately if we can't see the tube? Well, it turns out, if you do a little math, how far is it from this point to the end? Well, we have an 8-foot tube. Half the distance is 4 feet to our center line. And if this is 16 inches long, then we're going to deduct 8 inches from our 48, which leaves 40 inches. So it is 40 inches to that point. Now, how can we get it down exactly to that point? We are going to use a tape measure, and believe it or not, we're going to insert it, and we're going to push that sleeve all the way until it says 40 inches. And when we pushed it that far, we will know that we have it in the correct place. And would it make sense if I double checked and insert this tape measure from the other end and also pushed it until it said 40, because it will be 40 inches from both ends. Now, we want to make sure that our insert moves very freely inside the 1 inch. Now, you may notice this is a bit shiny. That's because I shined it up, lightly sanded, and then polished it with my Scotch-Brite pads, and that reduced the outer skin by a little bit and made it easier. All tubing is made slightly different with the tolerances. You may find that your tubing slides like this right out of the box, so to speak. Mine did not. It really got hung up and was stiff, and you don't want that because it will get stuck in the middle somewhere and you'll never get it out. So be sure it is free enough to move very nicely, and if it gets stuck, turn the tube over and shake it out and shine it up or reduce the diameter just a little bit more. Also be sure, of course, that your ends are deburred fully on both pipes, because that will make a difference. And we can go ahead then and push this in using our tape measure. Now, the tape measure I picked here will not fit inside the small tube. It will fit inside the bigger tube. So this is a tool shop 16-footer, guaranteed forever is what it says. How can they do that? Guaranteed forever. Must be very high quality. Or, well, let's not digress. So we need to push this 40 inches in and stop and reconfirm it from the other end. I'll push it to 43 inches and go to the other end and see if I can push it back to 40. So the insert sleeve sits between these two marks, and at the center line, right at the top, I'm going to drill a 1/8 inch hole and put an 1/8 inch rivet in. That rivet will only have one purpose, and that is to hold that sleeve in place so that we don't have to worry about it shifting. We need to hold it in this place. Now, as time goes on, we will add some hinges, and that will further lock the sleeve in. But for now, it'd be nice to not have to worry about it. So right at the center line, right on top, I'm going to drill a number 30 hole and an 1/8 inch rivet. Now, towards the center, we're going to have two hinges. Using your plans, you'll see that one is 3 5/8 off the center this direction and the same distance the other direction. Now these hinges will be pointed outwards. In other words, they will connect to the horizontal stabilizer. So we're going to use our line that we drew 90 degrees pointing outboard. And these marks are for the center of the hinge. So the center will go on the line, and of course the line down the middle is what we'll use to mark these very carefully. And that way all of our hinges will be lined up because of that line we drew. Remember, it's important about the spacing. I have 3 washers in the middle. That makes room for the 2 tangs and then 1 extra width in there. And so using the line, center it like that, punch and mark and drill very carefully, and then use our 3/16 stainless steel rivets. And then we'll add the one next to it, and then there's going to be 2 more towards each end. There we go. And now we have another one that's located over here. And be sure to deburr before installing the brackets. After completing these 2, we go to each end, where each end has another one. And checking our plans, looks like 5 1/8, which puts it right here. And the same down at the other far end. With this one finished, and the 2 at the center, that leaves 1 more at the other end. You'll find that they go on easier, and for some reason are installed more accurately the more of these you do. Just take your time and be precise. Now that we have completed all of our 4 hinges, it's time now to bring out the other 2 parts and put it all together. And now our job is to build 4 gussets, actually 8 because we want some on the other side. But basically we have 2 gussets. The corners are going to use the A gussets that we've used before. And the middle are going to use a new gusset, which are the C gussets. Let's take a look at those and get them ready and install them. Now, in preparation for installing these gussets, we want to make sure we have our top lines in place. And this is going to take an A. We're going to need 4 A's, 2 for here, each side, and then 2 for the other end. And we've made A's before, we just got to make some more of them. Also note that we need to raise or rotate the 8-foot backbone of our elevator, because this tube will sit all the way down and it needs to be at a 90-degree so that our top is at the top and not crooked like that. So make sure you prop it up with just the right amount of lift to get everything nice and up and down. And of course, this leg goes in pretty much to the end of our main spar tube. And both of these will use the C gusset, so we need to make 4 of these. And also remember the lines that will help ensure that our gussets are placed on properly. Now, after spending an hour or 2 at the bandsaw, we got 4 C templates and 4 A templates, all deburred on the edge and all drilled out. So it didn't take too long. Like I say, less than 2 hours I got all of that done. But now we're ready to go and install them. I'll start at the corner. So our corner is going to come together here. Now remember, this tube needs to have its line straight up, so I've supported the hinge further down to hold this nice end straight up and down. And here's our top line here. So we're going to use an A gusset, 3 holes and 3 holes, and we're simply going to find the line in both of the tubes. And once we've done that, we can mark and punch and drill. And these will be number 30 holes with 1/8" stainless steel rivets. And if you can get the first 2 holes right on, the rest sure become easy. So we will deburr and reattach and rivet. Or you can wait for the riveting until you do the adjacent gusset. With the first gusset at the corner clecoed, I can move now to this one here and use the gusset. Same principle, watch for the straight line, mark and punch, couple holes, cleco, and then use the holes to drill through. Now, having drilled this, we can move prior to riveting down to the next one. Now, I recommend skipping this one for now and rather going to the one at the end, because the end is where you want to set it up just right with the end of the spar, because the location of the center one is certainly less critical than the end. Once all the gussets are deburred, it's time to rivet the entire side. Keep in mind that the rivets that are going to be used in here have to accommodate the additional thickness. Remember, there's a 58 thousandths sleeve inside of this one on top of the 90 thou gusset. So the rivet lengths need to be a little greater here than outside of the sleeve. We have a nice discussion on Patreon about selecting the proper rivet size for all the different areas within the Affordaplane. So do check out membership on Patreon for some behind the scenes information if you're not already familiar with selecting the proper rivets. And now it's time to turn it over and we can install the gussets for the other side. And we have finished. Congratulations. And there we have it. The elevator is finished. We do have to add a horn for the controlling it, and then we need a horizontal stabilizer to attach the hinges to, and then finally mount it to the fuselage. So stay tuned, back to building, and we'll see you next time.